So how do developers even write code? They use a code editor or an IDE. These are fundamental applications for any developer. Let's just say you can't really code without one, and you'll see why very soon. There are different code editors or IDEs to choose from, but by far the most widely adopted one is Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code works for almost all programming languages and projects. Some exceptions include working with any projects in C, C++, or C#, and other editors exist for making Android or iOS apps. However, for 99% of the programming you will be doing, you'll be using Visual Studio Code. Before we do anything, we must first install Visual Studio Code so we can actually write the code. Start off by opening up your browser of choice and heading to code.visualstudio.com/download. Download Visual Studio Code for your platform. In my case, it's Windows, and open the installer. Once it finishes downloading, make sure not to rush the installation steps just yet, as there are a few options we need to check. When you reach the part of the installer that reads Select Additional Tasks, make sure to check every single option and then finish installing. Our first project is going to be written in Python. This means that we need to install Python onto our machine. Python is an interpreted language, which means that it needs an interpreter in order to run. We'll cover this a little bit later, but for now let's just install Python so we can actually get to making our first app. Open up a new tab and head to python.org/downloads and download the latest version. Again, make sure not to rush the installation steps, as there are important options we need to make sure are checked. Open up the Python installer and make sure that Add to Path is selected. This is very important and we will cover why later. For now, let's just continue with the installation. If everything is installed correctly, we can now run Python apps on our computer. Setting up a workspace is very important, as it will allow you to organize your projects and lead to less hassle with not finding projects and files. Open up your File Explorer and navigate to a directory or hard drive that you know that you will never delete. Here, create a new folder called Visual Studio Code. This folder is very important. Make sure you have created it somewhere you know you can find it easily and that you know that you will never delete on accident. Inside of this folder, we will create all of our projects inside of their subfolders. This way we have a nice and tidy way of organizing all of our projects. Inside the folder we just created, create a new one with the project name. You can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it Hello World. Open up the project folder, right click, and open in code. At first, the user interface might seem a little confusing, but don't worry, it's actually quite intuitive. Since we already opened up on the same folder that we created the project, we should see the folder name at the top left of our Explorer and 4 buttons. The first one creates a new folder inside of our project, and the other one creates a new file. For now, let's create a new file and call it main.py. Main is just a file name, and you can put whatever you want, but it's a convention to name the file the main file main, and py is just the file extension. This way the computer knows it's a Python file. We are now ready to write our first line of code. For now, write print hello world. At the top, open up a new terminal and write python space main.py. You should see hello world and the terminal at the bottom. For now, it doesn't matter if you don't know what print means or what parentheses or quotation marks mean. We will cover that in the next episode.